for joining us here. It's a beautiful Seattle day, but I am just thrilled to be in your company and in this room together. My name is Carol Ann Sanders Lundgren. I'm the Chief Campaigns Officer for Purpose Dignity Action. Many of you know us as PDA. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here with you tonight. I look around this room right now and I am just humbled. I'm grateful. This is an incredible expression of support for a vital community program that saves lives, is changing lives. You're going to hear a lot more about that later today. But for now, I want to start by acknowledging the elected officials we have in the room with us today. City Council members Moore, Rink, Strauss, Thaddeus Gregory, on behalf of Councilmember Tolman, thank you for joining us. And County Councilmember Zahalai, Councilmember Mosqueda, and I believe we're going to have Councilmember Rotucci joining us here shortly. Your collective presence is a testimony to the fact that this work matters, so thank you. In building King County's row program, KCRHA, to their credit, Jeff, where are you at? KCRHA, to their credit, asked us a new question. And turns out it was the right question. That question was, how do we craft an irresistible offer of help? How do we approach a group of people, many of whom have been labeled service resistant, many of whom have gone through every crack in the system? And the answer to that question was relationship. Row is a story of relationship. That's why it works. That's our special sauce. Row is about people coming together across difference to achieve something that is truly greater than the sum of any of our individual parts. And so our ask today is for the state and for leaders at every level to help us continue this story. And so that, I'm going to hand it to our speakers to kick us off. Councilmember Mosqueda.
Well, good afternoon. I'm glad to be here in a room full of leaders, but unfortunately we're here in the shadow of what's happening at the federal level, where we see chaos raining down on us daily through the headlines. The housing and urban development establishment has been halved, and threats are continuing to come to housing stability from the federal level. We see chaos raining down in the forms of tariffs, and we know that that only creates greater economic instability. Economic instability yields more unemployment, and employment equals more houselessness. We are in a moment right now in this state where we need to have the antidote to what is happening at the national level, where it appears every day that truth and science no longer matter. But what we know right here in Washington State is that the row investments, the right-of-way investments to helping find folks who are living outside and get them inside are proven, they are tested, and we know that they are true. They truly result in more people getting into stable housing, getting into the health services that they need. This is an evidence-based program in the midst of national chaos that we can truly invest in and find ways to get people stably housed and address the most pressing crisis across this country, across the West Coast, across Washington State, and right here in the Puget Sound. We need the state legislature to stand up in the moments like this and invest in evidence-based strategies to keep people housed and get more people inside. Right-of-way investments into getting people shelter, health care, and housing is what works. We are asking the state legislature, we are asking the governor to hear the pleas for additional right-of-way investments. This is the time we should be protecting and expanding right-of-way investments, not decreasing or eliminating. This is widely recognized as a gold standard in terms of how we help folks get inside and stay stably housed. We do not get people stably housed by shuffling them from corner to corner. We do not see results in getting people inside by sweeping people out of sight and from one location to another. We do not create trust with our housing service providers by breaking the trust and making it harder for people to find people when there is actually a unit available. The way that we get people inside is by maintaining those trusting relationships, by maintaining communication, and getting people inside. Investments in right-of-way housing has not only been proven in terms of the stories that we've heard from people who have experienced houselessness, but the data is compelling. The right-of-way approach has housed or sheltered 91% of people living in encampments that they've worked with. 91% of people. 73% of those people stayed inside. You all know, and the media has covered, how incredibly challenging it is to reach people, help people get inside, and keep them stably housed. 73% of people stayed housed. This is evidence that we should continue to invest in the right-of-way investments. We also know that people are less likely to go inside if they can't bring their pets, their personal possessions, or the people that they care about, the 3 Ps. Well, the right-of-way strategy here has allowed for us to safely store possessions, allow people to stay with their loved ones, and to be able to stay overnight and tackle the issues that are plaguing them with necessary health care. Many people that are living outside have to self-medicate. Mental and behavioral health issues are not being met across this state and across this country. Well, one of the best ways that we can help get people the health care they need is to give them the housing that they need first. What helps people succeed on their journey to finding a home is having access to stable housing, medication, treatment, food, and good living wage union jobs. People have access to all of those things when they have the trusted relationship through the right-of-way investments that we have seen so successful in our region. I will say it again. We have to be the last line of defense in this administration. We have forever been on the front line of offense, pushing forward progressive policies. We absolutely need progressive revenue at the state level as well. And one of the ways that we can both be a defensive strategy and continue to show that we won't back down is by investing in right-of-way investments to allow folks who are living in these right-of-ways to get into housing, into the safety net that will care for them, and ultimately into the stability that they need so that they can continue to be successful and productive members of this community. Many folks who are living unsheltered have jobs. What they don't have is a place to shower at night. Many people who are living unsheltered have family. What they don't have is a crib for their kiddo or an extra bedroom for their family member. Many people who are living unsheltered just need to get inside, and that is done successfully through the right-of-way investments that we have seen already taken effect right here in our state. This is the antidote to the chaos that continues to be sown at the federal level. We need to be investing, not cutting. People need care, not sweeps. We need to invest in right-of-way now. Thank you very much, and I turn it over to our chair, King County Councilmember Arrowhead Gardens.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Mosqueda. That was an excellent presentation. We appreciate you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeremiah Zahalai. I'm the chair of the King County Council, and I'm proud to be here in solidarity with all of you in support of the Right-of-Way Encampment Resolution Program. And I say in solidarity with all of you because I know there's a lot of people in this room who actually have boots on the ground, doing the outreach, connecting with our unhoused neighbors, providing them resources, and getting them into housing. And if you are a part of that team, please raise your hand so that we can give you the respect that you deserve. Thank you so much. It's really important for us to do that. I know there are elected officials on this stage highlighting this program, but these are the people in the audience who are doing that incredible work, and we appreciate you. To me, this is not just another government initiative. This is one of the most effective programs in the nation when it comes to resolving encampments and helping people transition into stable housing. My colleague, Councilmember Mosqueda, pointed out the figures. Dozens of encampments resolved, I think 23. 91% of those engaged were entered into shelter or housing and housed stably. That's real impact. What makes this program stand out is its compassion and its results. It doesn't rely on sweeps or force. It relies on weeks of trauma-informed outreach, individualized case management, and partnerships that provide behavioral health services, recovery support, and even job support. It helps people get to the root of homelessness and charts a path forward. And at the same time, it revitalizes our public spaces so they can return to safe, productive use for everyone. Now, we all understand the reality. Our state is facing a very real budget crisis. I don't want to stand up here and downplay the incredibly difficult decisions that our state lawmakers are being forced to make. King County is itself facing historic budget shortfalls, something that our budget director said is the worst budget crisis in King County's history. So we understand what that means, and we are grappling with it ourselves. But when we're talking about one of the most effective solutions to one of the most complex, the biggest, most intractable problems our state faces with respect to homelessness, we have to find a way to work together to prioritize what works. So I'm here today in solidarity to support this program, to uplift the incredible work being done by our outreach providers, service organizations, and community partners to state clearly, let's not step back from a program that has built trust, saved lives, and restored public confidence in our ability to govern compassionately and effectively. Let's fund what works. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Flaccado. I'm the Director of Housing at Evergreen Treatment Services REACH. I want to take a moment to share a story that I think captures the heart of the Right-of-Way project here in King County. At one of our row sites, we met a mother and her young daughter living in a tent. For most of us, it's unimaginable, trying to parent, to stay safe, to survive in conditions no one should ever have to endure, let alone a child. We were able to move them into a motel immediately, but we didn't just give them a bed for the night. We took time to build trust. The mother had a history of struggling to engage with service providers, so we moved at her pace and not ours. Over time, the trust grew. She stayed connected, and today, she and her daughter are in permanent housing and working with our team towards long-term stability, accessing benefits, pursuing treatment, and building a future. This is just one of many stories that define what makes King County Right-of-Way project different. Not only from forced displacement strategies like encampment sweeps, but even from other row efforts across the state. Here in King County, we don't treat people as problems to be removed. We treat them as neighbors with potential, deserving of care and stability. We don't show up with demands. We show up with a trauma-informed lens, a commitment to move at the speed of trust, and an opportunity to come inside with support. Because that's what it takes to reach people living outside with severe behavioral health needs and deep histories of trauma. Through Evergreen Treatment Services REACH and co-lead, we were able to provide outreach, stabilization, and long-term care. What Row added was a portfolio of permanent housing, master lease buildings where people can come as they are, no requirements, no hoops to jump through, just a safe place to land. And over 90% of the people we engage with say yes to that offer. And we know Row's impact doesn't end in King County. Our great partners at Low Income Housing Institute provide housing for Row participants, not just in Seattle at the Gene Darcy Place, but also in Thurston and Pierce County. Together, these buildings offer pathways to stability for more than 300 people experiencing homelessness. This model works. One that respects dignity, centers equity, and leads with housing as the foundation for healing. Now I'm honored to hand it over to Diane Radisat, President of Arrowhead Gardens Resident Community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming today. I really appreciate it. And there's some familiar faces here from about a year and a half ago or so, and when we started this. The pictures that you see are is what we lived with for well more than 1 year. And when I started making the phone calls in the month of January that year, it took me until the end of May for one single person within the government of Seattle and King County to answer a phone call. And then he would call me back, didn't acknowledge anything. And that was disheartening because this was the 5th encampment we had cleaned up across the street over the 15 years that I've lived here. We spent an enormous amount of time in the very beginning of these encampments to educate our residents on what homelessness was, how people become homeless, how they remain homeless, and how it is not a choice that they made deliberately. So we were frustrated when we had the worst camp that we've ever seen here with a great deal of danger, gunshots, there was a murder, we had bullets coming across the road onto our decks, and a great deal of theft on our property. And so that 5 months was like an eternity. But once we got everyone together, and there's a few of you in this room that came, it changed. And you took the time, with some coaching from me, I will say, that you didn't waste our time with conversations we had already heard. We needed answers, and we told you what the questions were, and you responded accordingly. So it made all of the difference in the world, and it took from May until about the end of August and into mid-September for this property to be cleared across the street. However, having said that, we had several months, long months of peace and quiet. But we don't have that now. When you leave the property today, if you will drive around, you will see all of the campers parked there again. So city people, I need to talk to you before you leave. And they come up, down the street, down the street, up the street, down the street. But these are those whose the co-leads job becomes most difficult. They're not the cooperative ones, but they still need help, they still need shelter, they still need services, and we cannot give up on them, ever. So we can't afford for the state to take any money away from this program in any fashion at all. If the money disappears, what you think will happen is these people will just suddenly be all fine, and we don't have to worry about them anymore. Well, with the problems with the federal level, and I'm glad you brought that up, that is planned chaos at the federal level. Don't kid yourself for 1 minute. But that planned chaos is they're doing something here, well, they're doing something here. And you can't let them do either. So you have to, the state has to keep this money. There's no way. It's not going to come from the feds right now, that's a given. We have to still work on that, but the state can't just say no, there's no money anymore. What will happen to these people? You will have more unemployment, you will have more people on the street, you will have less housing being available to people, you will have hunger. Our food banks are already changing every single week what you think is going to happen if this money is gone. So I don't know what else to say except that we don't have blinders on. Not one single person in this room has a blinder on. So don't act like you do when it's time to do your job. And that's what we want from you. It's just simply do your job. And with that, I'd like to introduce from the King County Council, Claudia Balducci.
Thank you, Diane. My name is Claudia Balducci. I represent District 6 on the King County Council, and I am also a member, along with my colleague, Councilmember Jorge Barone, the King County Regional Homeless Authority Governing Board. And we just came here, in fact, I came a little late because we just finished a committee meeting where we were hearing about some of the coming and already landing federal cuts and chaos and what it is doing to our ability to serve youth in homelessness. Programs are already being cut. The impacts we are talking about here are already happening. There are going to be young people who don't get the services they need, who will be less stable in their housing, and this is only going to get worse. And so what I would like to talk to you about here is the impacts if we don't make this decision to fund the right-of-way encampment removals. I will say, I come from East King County. I represent East King County, where we have only very recently completed building out homeless shelters throughout East King County to have barely enough infrastructure for people who are in need of housing in that part of the county. And the debate we always had was about why not just lock people up? Well, that's what's gonna happen. If we can't find ways to connect people who are in homelessness, in homeless to housing, they're going to go back into the revolving door. They're going to go into jail and out again, into the hospital and out again, around and around and around. If we sweep and move people, they will move from one place to another, and the human suffering continues, and the problems for the neighbors continue. This is such a proven program. I was smiling because my colleague Teresa Mosqueda said it's a gold standard. Mine will say silver bullet, so you see what our folks think about analogies. But it is as close to a program that functions exactly as intended as any policy that I can recall seeing, because it treats people like people. Because we don't just show up and say move. We show up and show up and show up and build relationships and meet people where they are and give them the things they need so that they gain trust and move into housing. And as you see from the numbers that have been displayed, most people then move into housing. And most of the people who move in stabilize in that housing. It is the win-win-win that we all want. And so I'm just here to add my voice to those saying to the state, despite all the challenges of funding, this program needs funding. And we cannot accept the outcomes of failing to fund this program. So I join wholeheartedly in that call. And now I would like to introduce a newer colleague who knows all about this from her personal experience, our Seattle City Council member, Alexis Mercedes Ring.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alexis Mercedes Ring. I represent the Office of Position 8 Cityway Applied in Seattle City Council. But many in this room actually know me from my previous role as a planning director for Homelessness Services Administration and having deep familiarity with this program. And I can say in that previous role, it was my job to understand every program serving unhoused people in King County. And in that work, I can tell you, the State Right-of-Way Initiative is one of the most effective programs operating right now in King County when it comes to bringing folks inside and keeping folks housed. In a moment where we are seeing devastating cuts on the horizon on federal services, when we're talking about threats to Section 8, to the Emergency Housing Voucher Program, to our HUD Continuum of Care dollars as administered by King County Regional Homelessness Authority, this is not a moment where we can back down and we cannot go backwards. The State Right-of-Way Initiative is a tremendously effective and important program. I know I hear from residents every day who are not just eager to see encampments go away, but eager to see our neighbors get housed and leading with good hearts and wanting to move forward in that work. This is a program that works and does exactly that, at getting folks housed. And that is why we are here today urging state lawmakers to restore $40 million in biennial funding to keep ROW ERP outreach intact. This funding is absolutely necessary to continue outreach to people currently unsheltered on state right-of-ways, provide emergency lodging and permanent housing placements, and support site cleanup and safety coordination with WashDOT and other partners. The current budget proposals only maintain housing for people previously helped through this program. But let's be clear, they do not fund new outreach, shelter, or housing placements. And without restored funding, ROW's program's front door will close. In other words, we will not have an encampment resolution program that cannot resolve new encampments. No new encampments will be resolved if this goes forward. But we know there is a way that we can fix this. And leaders from the local and state level have a moral imperative to ensure that there is a path forward for this work to continue. We cannot go back to a patchwork approach that simply shifts people from one roadside to another, especially in times like this when the stakes are so high. The people we're failing to serve don't disappear. They suffer, and our communities suffer as well. And I'm thankful to see a room full of so many hardworking folks who have been working on this issue, and we certainly want to support your work moving forward, which is why we're going to fight for this funding. And I'm grateful that we have so many leaders on the local level who are committed to making sure that this program continues as well. And with that, I want to invite up to speak next one of my colleagues exactly in that work, Seattle City Councilmember Kathy Moore, who is chair of the Housing and Human Services Committee and also sits on KCRHA's Governance Committee.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. As my colleague has said, my name is Kathy Moore. I serve on the Seattle City Council. I represent District 5, which is actually North Seattle. But we share a lot of the same issues. In fact, this is a citywide issue. This is a countywide issue. And I do serve as one of the Seattle representatives on the KCRHA Governing Board. And this is very much an issue that we are looking at every single day, and we are struggling to figure out how are we going to deal with the cuts coming down from the federal government when we have a constricted budget at the state level and we have a constricted budget at the local level. So we recognize as electeds, as Councilmember Zavaleta said, that this is a struggle, but it's one that we have to meet. So I was asked to give a little bit of a background about how did we get here. I would note that in fiscal year 2025,
Governor Inslee proposed $100 million for the State of Rutherford Encampment Program, but unfortunately, the legislature only approved $45 million at that time. The agencies were fortunately able to keep the program running this year thanks to some previous underspend, but that money is all gone. So right now, moving forward, the state has again suggested that we get $45 million because that's all that's required to maintain the existing housing. But according to KCRHA's data, this level would actually negatively impact their ability. We would be going backwards because they need more than what they have right now to continue to maintain the 256 essential shelter beds. There wouldn't be any money to continue to maintain those beds or to move forward with the critical outreach that we've been talking about, the outreach that establishes, that moves at the speed of trust, that establishes those kinds of connections that are so critically important to moving people indoors and helping people find a way forward out of this life and this return to this life. So as my colleague has mentioned, if this budget is not restored during this legislative session, the road program will effectively end this summer, losing the core functions of this program. But as also been mentioned, we still have time to fix this problem. It is not a done deal yet. And so we are all here today to urge the state legislature, to urge the governor to restore the $40 million to the biannual budget just to keep this program going. Because we cannot afford, we truly cannot afford to slide backwards. We have made so much progress, as testified to here today, and as testified to by the people who do this work every day. It's critically important that we continue to keep this program strong. And to that, I would like to turn it over to John Scholes of Downtown Seattle Association to talk more.
Thank you, Councilmember. I'm John Scholes, President and CEO of Downtown Seattle Association. We represent about 2,000 businesses, organizations, and property owners in the downtown. We also employ 165 full-time downtown ambassadors, a majority of whom came out of situations just like this. And I'm here to add my voice to the chorus that you've already heard from to say this works. And as a community, when we face situations like this, we have one of two choices: to intervene or to walk by. And the current proposed appropriation by the state legislature would have us as a community walking by too many situations just like this. We should intervene. We must intervene. The model that has been proven to be effective in addressing these situations in our state right-of-way is one we saw in action in downtown in 2021 and 2022 and 2023. And in my nearly 20 years with this association, I've never seen a more effective approach, an effort to bring people inside. We need to continue these investments, urge the state legislature to use some of the additional billions of dollars of new state revenue they will collect this year above and beyond what was collected last year, and fund this important work. Local elected officials support it, business community supports it, residents support it, voters support it. This is a no-brainer. It works, it should be invested in. It's my pleasure to introduce and welcome up City Council Member Dan Strauss.
Thank you, John. My name is Councilmember Dan Strauss. I'm elected by the people of Magnolia, Fremont, Finney, Green Lake, Greenwood, Crown Hill, Ballard, and many other micro neighborhoods, and I represent the entire city of Seattle. Thank you for the stories earlier today, and I'd say that your story is one that's been told many times, and we're not done working with you. When we see that the solutions that take a little bit more time to enact last a lot longer as well. The right-of-way Encampment Resolution Program provides real help to real people. At the site across the street, there were more than a dozen people who were surviving outside like nobody should. These pictures demonstrate this. And we're here today not to celebrate a clear green area. We're here to celebrate the 91% of people getting inside. We're here to celebrate being able to meet people where they are, getting them to their next step, and making sure, like John said, that we're not walking by, we're walking with them in intervening. This right-of-way Encampment Resolution Program here reconnected a father and their child with their family by bringing them inside. Right here across the street, this program was able to get awaiting parents into shelter and into a stable place before the birth of their next child. To date, nearly 500 people have been brought inside rather than pushed around, and over 1,700 people have been helped. The story here is just one of many. We've seen it in what we talk about. Homelessness is not just a city problem, it's not just a county problem. This is a bigger issue than all of us, and jurisdictions made up lines on maps don't stop people from moving back and forth. When the right-of-way encampment resolution program was operating in North Seattle, we saw great success as well. Many might remember the encampment that was along I-5 between 45th and 50th that extended up to 55th. Those folks didn't just get moved around, they got inside, and that helped all of Seattle. It helped the entire region be able to better address homelessness and meet people's needs, and helped us get to where we are today even with this program. We have to keep this program running, just as the city is going to keep our programs running. And Diane, I'll follow up with you after this meeting. And the budget for this program is incredibly important, because not only Seattleites rely on this program helps get people inside rather than pushing them around the community. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending today. Thank you so much for your commitment to keeping Row and Encampment Resolution Program's front door open by preserving outreach funds at the state level. Row is truly a life raft for the city, for the region, as we've heard, but importantly for the state, for 4 other counties that are also served by this program. Thank you so much to our speakers and to all the folks who have made Row a day-to-day reality. Please let me also give you your flowers. Nicole Alexander and Karen Salinas. Nicole and Karen are the brilliant minds behind our outreach approach. John Grant. Erica Frachon. Sam Sadeghi. And many, many more. I wish there was time to name everyone. And finally, I would be remiss to not acknowledge Darian Sharif, who is with us today. Darian is a former Row participant and has graciously joined us today. Thank you so much. We are going to conclude by having all speakers come up to the front for a photo, and after that, folks will be available to chat with media. Thank you so much.